Crazy Penguin teaches you Linux. NickSnoob.com.
Welcome to Nick Snoob. Sorry about the clickbaity title. Your photos aren't actually spying on you per se, but they do include a lot of information that you might not want to divulge online, such as the make and model of the camera or phone that you're using, as well as your geolocation, latitude and longitude, altitude, all kinds of stuff. So depending on what service you're using or where you're posting your photos online, some services will remove EXIF data for you automatically. And some will remove it automatically if you're using their phone app, but not remove it if you're using their website. And you're still giving that information to wherever you're posting that image. So even if they're removing the EXIF data, they could be using it, storing it in a database and keeping that information about you. So if you want to make sure that your, extra EXIF info in your photos doesn't end up online, the best thing you can do is remove it yourself. And luckily you're using Linux, so that's super easy to do from the command line. What? You're not using a Linux? What are you doing? Linux is free, it's easy to use, and you own your operating system. You can put it on as many computers as you want, you can customize it, you can share it with your friends, and it costs you nothing. If you really want to own your operating system, you should give Linux a try. I've got a link up here on how to create a thumb drive and test drive Linux on your computer without making any changes to your computer. You should check that out. If you're on Mac or Windows, whatever photo editing tool you're using will probably remove EXIF data for you. And just as an example of that, before we get to the command line stuff, also you can still do the command line stuff on Mac or Windows. On Mac, you just have to install Homebrew. On Windows, you can install WSL and use Linux commands from there. But anyway, I am going to get me out of the way here, and then I've got some test images here, and I'm just going to drag these to this test folder, copy here, because we're going to be making some modifications, and I just want to be able to get back to the originals. Okay, so first thing is let's take this image of the tiger here, and we're just going to open that in GIMP. If you're using Photoshop or another image editing program, it'll probably be similar, but the menus are going to be a little bit different. To view the EXIF data in GIMP, you can go to Image and then go to Metadata and then View Metadata. And you can see here it's got my GPS latitude and longitude. It's got the camera that I used, all this information in this photo. So to remove that in GIMP, I would just say File and then go Export Images. And then under the settings here, or options, under options, I can tell it to save EXIF or not save EXIF. I can also have it ask if the file, already exists. But so right now I have that turned off to not save EXIF. So if I just close that and say export, I'm going to call this just test.jpg. Export. And then let's open that test.jpg. And if we go view our image metadata now, you can see that it has a lot less information. Basically, it's just the color info and the orientation. So if I close that, you'll see it kept the orientation. So we can see that the orientation for that thumbnail didn't change. If we removed all the EXIF data, the thumbnail for that would change. And I'll show you that in just a second. So let's zoom in on this a little bit. And so now we're going to do the same thing from the command line. I mean, that works, but if I had to do that with a lot of images, depending on your image editing application, it might let you do batch images. But we can do that really easy from the command line. To make this easier, I'm just going to rename these real quick. This one I can get rid of. And I'm just going to rename these. And I'm just going to number them so that it's easier to access those from the command line because those were pretty long names. So I have a cheat sheet. Well, one, to look at EXIF data from the command line, you can use exiftool. And if you don't have exiftool, let me zoom in. You can just sudo apt get install exiftool. And I already have that installed, so it's not going to do anything. And then from a command line, let's just open a command line here. Normally I do everything just. One of the things I like about Kate a lot is that you can just go, I think it's F4, and have a embedded terminal. So that's super nice. And that's going to follow you around. So normally I would just do everything here, but I can't zoom this in where the text is easily readable. So I'm not going to do it there. And here we go. So if we man exiftool, you'll see that there are a ton of options. It reads and writes a ton of different formats, and there is a lot here. So for basic usage, it's pretty simple. You can just, if you want to view the EXIF info, you can just type exiftool and the name of an image, and that's going to show you that. You could see that that's scrolled. If I wanted to not scroll it, I could pipe that to a pager. So like, let me just clear the screen here. And if I did exiftool pipe to less, now I've got a scrollable window that I can scroll to. But nice to be able to do that from the command line. I could pipe that to my printer if I wanted to, right? Like I could just print out all the information for a photo and send it directly to my printer. Now for writing photos, it's a little more involved. So I've made myself a cheat sheet. I'm going to open that up real quick so you can see these commands here. So exiftool, read and write meta information in files. And then to read, we just did that. And then I wrote down some useful flags here. And this is just Obsidian, by the way. It's nice because I can jump around in the file, and I can also, it'll syntax highlight anything. So like if I click in here, you'll see I just have bash with backticks, and then that allows me to just click on that and copy that to my clipboard. So super useful for documentation. So to write a file and remove all the EXIF, we just do this exiftool space dash all equals, and then this space here after the equals is important, and then the file name. So let's try that real quick. I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard, and I am going to paste that, and we need to change that file name to 1.jpg. All right, so it updated that image file, and if we go look at that, you can see 1.jpg is now oriented sideways. So it didn't keep the orientation info when it rewrote the EXIF data. So now my thumbnail viewer is showing me that sideways. But it did rewrite, it created a copy of the original by default. So I do still have the original there. We can delete this, move to trash, and rename this to 1.jpg. All right, so back to the original. Oh, I meant to show you that it removed all the EXIF data. So let me just do that again. And now let's go pipe that to less. And now this is all we have for our image. So it did remove all of our EXIF data. So to remove that, And I'm going to delete that again, move to trash, and then rename this back to 1.jpg. Okay. So back to my notes here. That's how you remove everything from the file. And then we can remove all metadata and overwrite the original, but keep the original file modification date and time. So this dash uppercase P will keep the original modification date and time. This dash overwrite original will overwrite the original file, and so we won't get that underscore original. So depending on what we're doing, maybe we want to get rid of the original file and not keep a copy with all the EXIF data in there. And then we can also specify a file to write to. So that would not touch the original. It would just write that out to a new file. So we could give it a new name like noexif.jpg. And then we can remove all the information except for certain tags. And so it's very specific. We could take any tags from the original and copy them to the metadata we're creating, and we can remove any tags or add any tags. So basically what this is doing here is it says to keep the original modification date and time, get all the tags from the original file. This @ is just, it's expecting a file name, but that'll take whatever file you currently have. So it's going to get all the tags from the file, and then we're going to remove everything, but we're going to add back in the image orientation, and that's it. So let's give that a shot real quick. I'm just going to copy that and open up my shell here and paste that in, and we will change this to 1.jpg. Okay, so now if we look at this, we have 1.jpg. If we refresh, it created a copy of the original with all the meta info. So let's take a look at that real quick. If we do a look at 1.jpg, it's just got basic information, but now it has the orientation in there. And then if we look at 1.jpg underscore original, we can see there's all the information, including our phone, make, and model, and all that fun stuff. So now that we've got a simple command to remove the EXIF data, if you're on KDE, it's really easy to turn that into just like a magic desktop icon. I've got a video on that, but I'll just show you how to do that real quick since it's super simple. And then we can even go a step further and turn it into a service menu, and I will link to a video on how to do that. That would just allow you to right click and say remove EXIF data. But we're just going to make a magic desktop icon. So I'm going to right click on my desktop here, and I'm going to say create new, and I'm going to say link to application. And then I'm going to call this remove EXIF. And I'm going to copy that because I'm going to paste that for my application name as well. And then go back to this, and I'm going to give it an icon. So I'm just going to go all icons and search for a camera. And I'll just use that one. Okay. And then so back to the application. So now we need to put in the command and the environment variables. So if I just pull up my terminal here and go up to where we did that, we need this right here. So I just did a Control-Shift-C, and I'll do a Control-Shift-V. Oop, I accidentally hit Control-Shift-C. So Control-Shift-C, and then go back to that, and do a Control-Shift-V. Oh, you're not doing it. Okay. Okay, Control-V works. Control-Shift just removes any formatting. So usually Control-Shift-C will copy without formatting. Control-Shift-V will paste without formatting. But for some reason here I have to just use Control-V. Anyway, so the program that we're running is exiftool. That's just our command line tool. And then for the arguments, we need to pass in our arguments. So I'm going to grab this here and Then we want to change where we have the 1.jpg. We're just going to do a %F, and that'll get passed in whatever image we drag onto our icon. And that's it. So let me zoom in on this just so you can see it. So just like this. All right. So I'll say OK. Now we can take an image and just drag it onto this icon. And you'll see it just removed the EXIF information there and saved our original. And then I could also just take a bunch of images and drag them up there. And now we've got the EXIF data removed from all of those images. So that's it. If you want to take that a step further and turn that into a service menu, like I said, where we could just right click and say remove EXIF data, I'll link a video right up here that'll show you how to do that. That's it. Now you can post your images online without accidentally divulging more information than you meant to. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future content. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get them answered as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.